Have you ever wondered if you could build a powerful gaming PC in an incredibly compact form factor without needing a traditional power supply? Today, we're diving into a motherboard that might just make that dream a reality. This is, without a doubt, one of the most intriguing motherboards I've ever encountered for small form factor, SFF, builds. Often found on platforms like AliExpress, where various models are available, I managed to acquire mine used on eBay. Even though it came with a CPU, the unique design of this board immediately caught my attention. It's specifically known as a thin Mini-ITX board, which distinguishes it significantly from a standard Mini-ITX. Firstly, it utilizes SODIMM RAM, meaning you'll need laptop memory modules. It also features a slim I/O selection at the rear. Crucially, the PCIe X16 slot is oriented uniquely, extending directly from the side of the board. This design makes it incredibly convenient to lay the entire board flat and connect a graphics card. However, the most significant departure from traditional motherboards is its power delivery system. Instead of requiring a standard ATX power supply, it features a 4-pin mini-DIN connector at the back, allowing the entire unit to be powered by a compact 300-watt power brick. We have a lot to explore and test with this setup. This unique side-mounted PCIe slot simplifies the creation of a thin gaming PC. While I initially considered a low-profile RTX 3050, I decided to aim for something more powerful. The board features a 6-pin power connector, which, when paired with the PCIe slot, can deliver up to 150 watts to a graphics card. Combined with the 300-watt power brick, this allows us to integrate a relatively robust GPU, provided it maintains a low-profile form factor to keep the system thin. This motherboard supports 10th or 11th generation Intel processors. Mine originally came with an Intel Core i5-11400F, but I upgraded it to an i5-11600K to gain those extra threads and a bit more performance. Even with the 11600K, which has 6 cores and 12 threads, it won't max out every scenario, but it offers a solid performance boost. These boards are also available for 8th and 9th generation Intel CPUs, and even newer 12th, 13th, and 14th generation variants, with the majority being found on AliExpress. When I first received the board, I tested it with the stock Intel cooler. This cooler is simply inadequate for an 11600K, so I opted for the ID Cooling IS53XT. It's slightly taller than the stock cooler but provides significantly better cooling performance, all while maintaining a low profile at just 53 mm tall. While a low-profile RTX 3050 or an RX 6400 would be an easy setup, I wanted to push this system further. Given the 150-watt power delivery capability from the 6-pin connector, I believed we could achieve excellent 1440p performance. For this, I'm using a 6-pin to dual 8-pin PCIe adapter. It's important not to overdo it with a card that genuinely requires 2 8-pin connectors. My choice for this build is a low-profile Gigabyte RTX 5060, featuring a triple fan design and requiring only a single 8-pin power connector, conveniently located at its edge. The total graphics power, TGP, for this card is rated around 150 watts, though I don't anticipate hitting that maximum with this specific system. I'll simply route the adapter and plug in the 8-pin power connector. Once the system is booted, I'll stress the CPU and GPU to precisely measure the total power draw. The 300-watt power supply connects directly to that 4-pin mini-DIN connector at the back, which is truly what I appreciate about this setup. For a very small form factor build, you don't need to worry about an internal power supply. I've been searching for a suitable case for this unit. Standard Mini-ITX cases would position the board upside down, with the GPU at the top. While I could modify such a case to fit and cut out the necessary openings for the I/O ports, I found a more elegant solution. I'm using a section from a stackable rack system, originally designed for Mini-ITX boards, which perfectly accommodates this setup. Although I don't have a cover for it, and could stack another unit if available, it serves as an excellent platform for testing. I've installed a 1TB M.2 SSD and will be running Windows 11. The system fits snugly, with the RTX 5060 on the left, the beefier cooler installed, and the upgraded 11600K processor. I also modified a small bracket to allow the system to sit vertically, which I personally prefer aesthetically. Now, let's move on to some testing. The first priority is to confirm that the system doesn't exceed the 300 watt limit of the power brick. Frankly, I don't expect it to, but if it does, I'll have to switch to a less powerful GPU. Our configuration includes the 11th generation Core i5, 6 cores, 12 threads, and 16 GB of DDR4 RAM running at 3200 MHz, which is the highest I could achieve from the BIOS. Of course, we also have the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5060 with 8 GB of VRAM. To test this, I'm using CPU-Z to stress the CPU and firmware for the GPU, as it's designed to push graphics cards hard. Monitoring the TGP, the RTX 5060 reached up to 130 watts, though the card is rated for around 145 watts. This slight limitation might be due to the 8-pin power connector or even the PCIe slot itself, but we should still see impressive performance. For the CPU, with no overclocking applied, it peaked at 80 watts. This indicates the system might be slightly underpowered for the CPU's full potential, as this chip can typically reach 100 to 120 watts. However, we still maintain good clock speeds. Combining the CPU and GPU, we're currently at 210 watts. Adding the NVMe SSD, fans, and other components, we remain under 300 watts in total, but it gets close under full stress. I have the entire setup plugged into a power meter, so by the end of this, we'll know the exact power draw during 1440p gaming and the maximum peak. First, let's look at some benchmarks. In 3D Mark Steel Nomad, the system achieved a total score of 3127, with an average FPS of 31.28, which is consistent with other low-profile RTX 5060 systems I've tested. Moving to 3D Mark Time Spy, the score was a respectable 12,657. While the RTX 5060 isn't the most powerful card on the market, a newer, more capable CPU could unlock even greater performance, as we're working with slightly older architecture here. I intentionally sought out a 10th or 11th generation system to keep costs down for the CPU and DDR4 RAM. Now, for some actual gaming. Resident Evil Re-Verse runs incredibly well. At 1440p with maximum settings and no DLSS, I averaged around 98 FPS indoors. Moving outdoors into rainy scenes with more draw distance, the frame rate dipped to the mid-70s. For Red Dead Redemption 2, I opted against any scaling, so I used a mix of high and ultra settings. At pure ultra, it struggles to maintain over 60 FPS without scaling, but this mixed preset still looks fantastic. Observing Afterburner in the top left, the GPU is now drawing more power than it did in firmware, reaching 145 watts in total, which is exactly what I was aiming for, confirming maximum GPU performance. In Cyberpunk 2077, with the Ultra preset and DLSS set to balanced, explosions can cause dips below 60 FPS. Even with balanced DLSS, you might see occasional drops to 60. To mitigate this, one could enable frame generation or multi-frame generation. However, even without it, I would be perfectly content playing this game if the frame counter wasn't visible. I also wanted to test a racing game, so I chose Japanese Drift Master. I personally love this game. At 1440p with high plus settings and no DLSS, it performs beautifully. We could push it to Ultra, but that would necessitate using some form of scaling. Finally, Borderlands 4 at 1440p with high settings and DLSS set to balanced yielded average frame rates in the low 70s. This game has historically given me issues, especially on older chipsets, and sometimes even on newer hardware it just doesn't perform optimally. However, we're comfortably above the 60 FPS threshold here, so frame generation isn't strictly necessary unless you want to push for even higher frame rates. The last thing I wanted to discuss was the total system power draw from the wall. Using a power meter, I observed an average draw of 250 watts during 1440p gaming. The maximum spike I recorded was 287 watts, which is very close to the 300 watt power brick limit. However, it never exceeded that limit, nor did the system blue screen, black screen, or shut down completely. I'm unsure if there's a built-in failsafe on the motherboard to prevent overdrawing or if the components simply don't demand more power. Either way, I believe a motherboard like this is fantastic for building a small form-factor gaming PC, especially if you can find one that supports 10th or 11th generation CPUs. This allows you to keep costs down on used processors and DDR4 RAM. Of course, you could always upgrade to a 12th or 13th generation board for better performance, albeit at a higher cost. I truly appreciate this form factor and the fact that the entire system can be powered by a single 300 watt brick. That concludes our look at this unique build. If you're interested in learning more about these motherboards, I'll leave links in the description. You can often find them new on AliExpress, and occasionally new or used on eBay. If there's anything else you'd like to see running on this system, please let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching.